What is up, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. And today we're going to be continuing my series of college football team previews. So, in depth team previews for the 2026 upcoming college football season. Part one, or just the first video, we covered Texas and my thoughts on them. I predicted them pretty highly, so 11-1 with a 9-0 conference record. I think I said 8-0 in the video, but 9-0 is what I meant with now 9 SEC conference games instead of just 8. If you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it if you want, or if you don't, I don't mind. But anyways, part 2, I said I would make a Big Ten team video, and here we are today. We're going to be covering the defending national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. So hope you guys are doing well, and let's get right into it. So the Hoosiers return all three major coaches, Signetti, Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, and Brian Haynes, who was the Broyles Award winner. That is the best assistant coach in college football. He won that last year. That's the defensive coordinator, Brian Haynes. Those three have been working together since they were at Indiana University at Pennsylvania, also known as IUP. I believe since 2016 when Mike Shanahan joined the staff. I want to say as a wide receiver coach or some much smaller role than obviously offensive coordinator, but they have worked up the chains or worked up the food chain of college football together with Elon, which is an FCS school, obviously James Madison, and now here at Indiana. I believe they hired UCLA's offensive coordinator from a year ago to be their co-offensive coordinator this year as well. Looking at the team statistics from a year ago, I mean, this team didn't really lack in one major statistic, which, again, the major statistics that I have are points per game, pass yards per game, rush yards per game, and total yards per game for both offense and defense. The worst statistic in terms of the national rank was their offensive pass yards per game, which was 55th, which is like middle of the road at worst for a Power 4 team like themselves. They were actually 7th out of 18 in the Big Ten in that statistic, but they were first in the Big Ten in offensive points per game, rush yards per game, and defensive rush yards per game, so rush yards allowed per game. They were top 5 in the country in offensive points per game, defensive points per game, defense rush yards per game, and defense total yards per game. So a ridiculous season for them, quite frankly, from a statistical standpoint. In terms of the recruits that they bring in, Indiana, obviously never been a heavy recruiting school, as you can imagine. Not a lot of kids were dying to go to Bloomington, Indiana for any good football program that was down there until maybe 1 or 2 years ago. So they're number 29 nationally, number 9 in the Big Ten. So about middle of the road recruiting in the Big Ten. According to 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, they did not land a player in the top 200 in the 2026 class. Actually, their number one recruit, Gabe Hill, number 213 overall and number 24 at the defensive line position in the 2026 class. He's from Naperville, Illinois, went to Naperville North High School, not too far away from here. Some other guys, you got Henry Olinger from Columbus, Ohio, Casimir Hicks from Indianapolis, Parker Elmore, the tight end. He was the only offensive player listed in the top 10 recruits for Indiana. Other than that, it was linebackers, edge rushers, defensive linemen, safeties, corners. Only one offensive player, and that was a tight end, Parker Elmore. So they finished with the 29th ranked class nationally, number 9 in the Big Ten from a recruiting standpoint. Now looking onto the roster we have here, so obviously, as with almost any national championship team or defending national championship team for that matter, they lose a lot of players. They lose a lot of production from the previous year. That is no exception here. That's the word I was looking for. So they lose, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, who won pretty much any and all major award that he could have won as a quarterback last year for the Hoosiers. He had a 72% completion, 3,535 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions last year. He won the Heisman Trophy, Big Ten Conference MVP. I think he won offensive MVP in like all of their bowl games last year, I want to say, or at least 2. I think 2 of them. One of them, Pat Coogan won. He was the center from Marist High School, by the way. He won the Rose Bowl offensive MVP, but I think Mendoza won the Peach Bowl and the championship offensive MVPs. So they lose him. Also, not as important, clearly, but worthy of note, his brother, Alberto Mendoza, who was the backup quarterback last year, pretty solid player in his own right, does still have college eligibility, but he transferred to Georgia Tech. So they don't have either of their top 2 QBs from last year. Additionally, they lose their two-headed monster of a running back room, Roman Hemby, who was third team All Big Ten a year ago, and Kalen Black. Both of those guys were 1,000-yard rushers last year. Hemby, 1,120 and 7 rushing touchdowns. Kalen Black, 1,040 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. Hemby signed by Vegas as an undrafted free agent, so he'll join Mendoza there. And Kalen Black drafted by San Francisco, the 49ers, in the third round, in the round 3. That doesn't make any sense at all, but both of those guys depart. So the running back room is going to be a bit of a question this year. Unlike Texas, they don't really have a plug and go kind of guy or plug and play kind of guy. That's plug and go. You've never heard that before, I guarantee it. But they don't really have a, just day one replacement. They have Turbo Richard coming in from Boston College. I'll get into him a little bit later, as well as Kobe Martin coming back. He was the third leading rusher for the Hoosiers last year. So they have some guys, but unlike Texas, they don't have the Raleek Brown. They don't have the Hollywood Smothers, who are really established, successful players at the power conference level. But they do have some viable options who might turn into those players when given a full chance. In terms of the receiving room, they are hit hard by the draft and graduation and whatnot. They lose Omar Cooper, who was a round 1 pick. They lose Elijah Surratt, who has been with Kurt Signetti and his staff for the last 3 years. He was with James Madison in 2023. He got drafted to Baltimore in the 4th round. E.J. Williams, Jonathan Brady, even their starting tight end, Riley Nowakowski, he's gone, drafted to Pittsburgh in round 5. So they get hit hard. They only have one returning receiver who had more than, I think, 65 yards last year, and that would be Charlie Becker, who went above and beyond that mark. But other than him, they don't have much returning production at all in the receiver room. But they did get at least one transfer that I'll cover later on. The offensive line is the one part of this offense that wasn't really hit too hard by graduation, transfer portal, the draft, and whatnot. Their big loss, I would say, Pat Coogan. He was second team All Big Ten last year, but a big chunk, no pun intended, a big chunk of that offensive line is coming back, which is a scary thing for opposing Big Ten defenses to have to worry about into this 2026 season. But they lose guys like Pat Coogan, they lose Khalil Benson, who was signed by Kansas City as an undrafted free agent as well. From a defensive perspective, they lose a few guys on the defensive line here, such as Stephen Daly, Mikhail Kamara, who was a third team All American and first team All Big Ten in 2024. Kellen Wyatt, Hosea Wheeler, Dominique Ratcliffe. They lose all those guys. Aiden Fisher is probably going to be the biggest hole to fill in this defense from a year ago. He was two-time first-team All-American, two-time first-team All-Big Ten as well. Just listening to these stats, he really did everything for them. 97 total tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, 2 interceptions, and 1 pass deflection last year. And he's another guy who has been with Cignetti for 4 years. He was with him for 2 years at JMU and now 2 years here at Indiana. He was drafted in round 7, which I don't get how a two-time All-American only gets drafted in round 7. That seems like a steal to me, but I'm no general manager, so it is what it is. But drafted by Houston in the 7th round. D'Angelo Pons, as we get into the secondary here, D'Angelo Pons, a big loss, 2 interceptions, 11 passes deflected last year, which I believe led the Big Ten in that category a year ago. He was an first-team All-American last year, two-time first-team All-Big Ten as well. He's another guy with Cignetti for 3 years. Devon Boykin, and then Lewis Moore as well was a first-team All-American and first-team Big Ten last year. He had 6 interceptions. So getting into the starting lineup here, that's a lot to say moving into the starting lineup, but they return some. They bring in some experienced, some veteran transfers who have experience at the Power 4 level, which is critical, and some guys who just say next man up and they come into a starting position here in this upcoming season. So at the quarterback position, you lose Fernando Mendoza, you lose Alberto Mendoza, you bring in Josh Hoover, one of the most experienced QBs you can find in the country, let alone in the transfer portal. A season ago had about a 66% completion percentage, 3,472 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, but 13 interceptions, which was at the top of the Big 12 in that number. So turnovers are going to be a thing to limit, and I'm sure in this quarterback-friendly system that have had, guys like Curtis Rourke and Fernando Mendoza right at the top of the Heisman discussion. I mean, no disrespect to them, but just saying Curtis Rourke and Fernando Mendoza didn't do what they did at Indiana at the previous schools that they were at. So Curtis Rourke didn't do what he did at Ohio. Fernando Mendoza didn't do what he did at Cal, as they both did at Indiana, if that makes any sense. So turnovers are definitely going to be a thing to limit. He is one of, if not maybe the most experienced QB returning this year in the college football scene. He's been with the Horned Frogs since 2022, so experience will pay dividends here, especially at such a critical position as the quarterback position. So he's going to be a guy to look out for here. Um, as I said in the running back room, you bring in Turbo Richard. That's a big get from Boston College. He had 749 receiving yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, as well as north of 200 receiving yards last year for the Eagles. And luckily for him, got out of one of the messiest programs in the Power Four situation right now in the Power Four scene and jumped onto the defending national champions boat. So, good situation to be in for Turbo. Also, some guys to look out for in the running back room. You have Kobe Martin, who had, let's see here, he had 500, north of 500 rushing yards last year. And then Lee Beebe Jr. as well will be a guy to look out for in the running back room, but it should be Turbo Richard who gets most of the carries there. In the receiving room, you have Nick Marsh coming over from Michigan State with 662 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns last year at Michigan State. This will be his third year at the collegiate level. Charlie Becker, as I said, really the only key returning receiver who was, a big part of that receiving room last year for the Hoosiers. He had 679 receiving yards, almost 20 yards per catch, which I think led the Big Ten in that statistic, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Mind you, in a receiving room that featured guys like Omar Cooper, featured guys like Elijah Surratt, E.J. Williams. So all those guys are gone. Not to say that, Marsh and Tyler Morris, who we're going to get to in a bit here, can't produce at those levels too, but he's certainly going to be more of a main star in this wide receiver room. Speaking of Tyler Morris, 2-time CFP national champion, which I don't know of any other guys who can say that. Obviously, you would have had to have been in a situation like Morris, so you would have had to have been at, Michigan or Ohio State, which I don't know who would do that, but I can't say I respect that person, but, it is what it is. You would have had to have been at Michigan or Michigan and Indiana, I should say. You would have had to have been at Ohio State and Indiana in back-to-back years. So I'm sure there's at least one other guy like that, but Tyler Morris is certainly, at the very least, one of a very exclusive and very elite list. He had 248 yards, 2 touchdowns in 2024 with the Wolverines. He did not play last year, I believe, due to an injury. In the tight end room, again, just like with Texas, this is a bit of a question from last year to this. You had second team All Big Ten tight end Riley Nowakowski a year ago coming in from Wisconsin. He leaves, and now there's kind of a bit of a question mark at that position. The main guy to look out for is going to be Miami transfer Brock Schott. Interesting, he loses the national championship game and then just jumps boat to the other side. I'm not sure how that works necessarily, but, more power to him. He had 2 catches for 24 yards, so hardly any recorded statistics last year. So, guys like that are going to have to step up for the Hoosiers at the tight end position. But I said the offensive line is going to be one of, if not maybe the most experienced unit in this team, and it is. You have Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year and consensus All-American from a year ago, Carter Smith coming back. at the left tackle position. Um, Drew Evans coming back, Bray Lynch coming back. I have him slated as the center this year. Could be Bray Lynch, could be Drew Evans, could be a mix of both, trying to just figure things out as we move into the later parts of the season. That could certainly be the case. You bring in Joe Bruner from Wisconsin, who's played 12 games both in 2024 and 25 with Wisconsin, who I believe had a strong offensive line the last 2 years. Not too strong, maybe anywhere else on the field, unfortunately, but, you know, he was a big part of that strong offensive line. He's going to be slated at right guard, I have, for this upcoming season. And then at right tackle, you have Adedamola Ajani. I'm actually surprised I got that one. He played 12 games here as well last year. From a defensive perspective, here you have two Kansas State transfers on the defensive line. Chidi Obiazor, excuse me, and Toby Osunsanmi. Both those guys coming over from Manhattan, Kansas to Bloomington, Indiana. Obiazor was 2025 honorable mention All Big 12 last year, and Osunsanmi has been with the Wildcats for 4 years. So both of those guys looking to make impacts on the defensive line in the year to come. Your nose tackle, Tyreek Tucker, he was first team All Big Ten a year ago. He's another guy who's been with Signetti for the last 4 years, making it 5 this year. He was at JMU in 22 and 23. He had 12 tackles for loss and 6 sacks last year for the Hoosiers. Um, in the linebacker room, Indiana, by the way, likes to go with a 4-2-5 formation, which is also known as a nickel defense. So you got 4 up front, 2 linebackers, and then 5 in the secondary. That fifth defensive back is known as a nickel back. So, little football philosophy for you on a Tuesday night. I almost forgot what night it was. Anyways, Rolijah Hardy, who's the leading tackler on this Hoosier defense from a year ago with 102 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 pass deflections last year. He was second team All Big Ten a year ago for the Hoosiers. He's going to be the weak side linebacker, as well as Isaiah Jones. He was third team All Big Ten with 78 total tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 4 pass deflections, just to name a few stats for Jones. And then moving into the secondary here, maybe one of the lesser experienced units, at least maybe at the high level, some guys coming up who had maybe lesser roles last year. You have Jamari Sharp coming in here, or not coming in, he was there last year, but he had 50 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, and 6 pass deflections a year ago. A.J. Harris, who was third team All Big Ten in 2024. You get him coming over from Penn State as well as Georgia before that. Preston Zachman coming over from Wisconsin. He had a nice year in 2024 as well. I think he was sidelined by an injury last year, so he comes over in his 7th year of college football this year. So another case of not sure where the eligibility comes from, but it's there. So more power to him. Amari Farrell had 48 total tackles, 4 interceptions, and 7 pass deflections a year ago, which got him second team All Big Ten honors. He's had 4 interceptions the last 2 years as well, so he's a playmaker. He's certainly one to look out for there. And then the nickelback, one of the lesser experienced starters here, but Byron Baldwin Jr. is going to be stepping into that role. He had 10 total tackles and 1 fumble recovery a year ago. From a special teams standpoint, Nico Radicic returns for the Hoosiers. He was the Big Ten Kicker of the Year. 87 attempted extra points for Radicic a year ago. 87 went in. He was perfect from the extra point spot. And he was 18 of 19 from field goals a year ago as well. And then the punter position, you're going to bring in Billy Gowers here from Hawaii, who was 46.2 average yards per punt on 49 punts last year for the Rainbow Warriors. He comes over to Bloomington here this year. So, as we look at this schedule here, finally the final part of the video, we have North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky. That's your out-of-conference schedule. I don't think I have to go over this too much. North Texas, if, everybody comes back a year later and, Eric Morris comes back, Drew Mestemaker comes back, Wyatt Young comes back, Caleb Hawkins, pretty much the whole Oklahoma State team this year, if they all come back to North Texas, maybe this is a game. I still think Indiana handles that team, but now I think it's Neil Brown is going to be the head coach. He was the head coach at West Virginia a few years back before Rich Rodriguez. I guess not that long ago. But, wish all the best to him, but I think Indiana takes this one pretty handedly. Howard, that's a win. And then Western Kentucky, I think that is a pretty simple win as well. Shout out to Western Kentucky and the mascot Big Red. That is my, that's my comment on Western Kentucky. They begin Big Ten play with Northwestern at home. Shout out Coach David Brown, man. He's a good coach. I think Northwestern's found something in him. They're one of those, do more with less kind of programs. So you got to respect that in this day and age in college football, but I don't think there'll be any match for the Hoosiers. They improved to 4-0. They go on the road for the first time. Rutgers and Nebraska back-to-back weeks. Rutgers, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I saw a video, I don't know, it was kind of random, just popped up on my feed, but it was Coach Greg Schiano saying he's finally got everything under him in the athletic department and the institution at Rutgers University. They're all behind him now, and everything's gonna click this year. We'll see. I guess the era of coaches talking a lot about themselves and about their team, even if it is a program like Rutgers or Kentucky, as Will Stein did. It works. It works. Kurt Signetti, I mean, look no further. He obviously had a lot to say about himself and about the team and how confident he was, and it has done nothing but paid off really in 2 years. So I wish nothing but the best for Rutgers. I think they drop this one, so Indiana improves to 5-0, 6-0 after a win against Nebraska. I don't think this one is the one that breaks the streak of losses against top 25 teams for the Huskers. So I think the Hoosiers are going to be 6-0 with relative ease heading into a kind of, I'd say, maybe season-defining stretch here in the middle and later stages of October. They face Ohio State at home and Michigan on the road. I've got them winning both. I'm not going to lie. I think Signetti's Signetti's got the whole thing figured out. I think he's got, the fan base. I mean, Memorial Stadium is going to be about as loud as we've ever heard it for that game if Ohio State is undefeated, which I think they might have Texas before that, but I think I have Ohio State going down and winning that one. So if both teams are undefeated, it's a game of the year type situation, undoubtedly. But I have Indiana winning this one. I've got them winning that, and I have them beating Michigan as well. The big house is going to be rocking as well. It's probably going to be a 11 a.m. game. God knows why, but it's going to be an 11 a.m. game. And at the end of the day, I need to see this Michigan offense clicking, which they haven't been in recent years. But, there's always time for a turnaround here. They return home on Halloween. I almost said Thanksgiving. Halloween for their homecoming game, which is against Minnesota. I think that's a win. Um, PJ Fleck, by the way, while we're on coaches, PJ Fleck, I think, is one of my favorite coaches personally in college football. Another do more with less kind of program. Certainly, I mean, it's hard for Minnesota fans to complain about, 7-5 seasons and whatever else. I mean, you just don't have the resources. You don't have everything that Ohio State has, that Michigan has, that Penn State has, that Oregon has, that all these other teams in the Big 10 have. And yet they're still, I mean, they have a bowl game win streak. They've won every bowl game for like 7 or 8 years now. It's incredible. So he's one of my favorite college football head coaches personally. I don't have them winning this one though. I think Indiana improves to 9-0. And then we kind of head into here as we go into November. They have a bye week on the 7th. We head into season defining stretch number 2, if you will. 2 week stretch with USC at home, Washington on the road. Going to be two tough games, but I have them winning both again. USC, very talented team this year. Going to be a tough team to get around, but it's at Indiana. I think they get through that one, and I think they go to a very hostile environment. Husky Stadium is a brutal, brutal place to play. We've seen some very good teams lose there throughout the years, but I think they get that done. And then Purdue at home, I mean, I don't think I really have to say much more about that one. I think they get that one done. I've got the Indiana Hoosiers going 12-0 for a second straight year, 9-0 in conference. At the end of the day, I need to see I like my expectations and my thoughts of Indiana football right now could not be any higher. I think this could be another Alabama situation that we're seeing here unravel. I think this could be another Alabama dynasty, if you will. So I've got them 12-0. Obviously, that gets them into the Big Ten championship. That gets them into the CFP, even if they lose the Big Ten championship. They're into the CFP as a top four, probably even higher than top four seed in the CFP rankings. And yeah, I mean, I need to see I need to see the empire crumble before I can confidently say that it will. That made no sense at all. But you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. So that's all I've got for this one. I've got a 12-0 Hoosiers squad this year. I think Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh, Charlie Becker, Turbo Richard, that offense behind that rigid offensive line this year, and then the defense. Um, the defense is going to have to gel. They're going to have to gel But they're going to have some time as a benefit of this schedule with, no road games until October, and your first two Power Four opponents are Northwestern and Rutgers. No disrespect to them, but that's just what it is. So they're going to have some time to gel. I think that will be a good thing for them, and they're going to get into the deep end of that schedule in October and November. I think they'll be ready. So that is it for this one. I forgot to mention this in the last video, but someone already did. If you guys want to see any teams, any specific teams that you want me to preview, please feel free to leave that down in the comments below. That's essentially why I picked Indiana for this video. So if you guys want to see any teams from me that you want me to preview, leave those down in the comments. Hope you guys continue to have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.